Hey guys, what's up? My name is Zach, and today we're going to be analyzing the Missouri 2018 Senate race. So from the very start of the election season, this race has been very, very important. In order for Democrats to have any chance of taking the Senate, they need to hold this state. And Claire McCaskill has been the incumbent in this state for the past two terms. She's a conservative Democrat for the most part, and she was elected, well, first elected during a year when this state was much more Democratic friendly. However, she has maintained her seat in 2012, and we're going to analyze that after I get through the polls here. Josh Hawley is a Trump supporting Republican and the Attorney General of Missouri. And now let's look at the polls. So as you can see here, polls have been pretty much split down the middle. The past few have ended up in ties. Hawley has made a minor comeback with +3, although I'm not going to acknowledge this too much, considering the fact that there's four more polls before that show it as a tie. However, Hawley definitely does have a slight lead in polls. However, it's not big enough to make it a significant factor when calling it for either candidate's case. When looking at the 2012 results, when Claire McCaskill was an incumbent, as you can see here, she won with 54.8% of the vote to Todd Atkins' 39. Very solid margins, especially in a year when this state was starting to trend more and more Republican. However, this was mostly because of Todd Atkins' comments on rape. As you can see here, he made a claim on a radio show that something regarding legitimate rape. It was a controversial comment regarding rape, and that was for the most part why Claire McCaskill won by such a large margin. Leading up to that, as you can see here, Claire McCaskill was definitely leading in fundraising. And now if we're going down to look at polls, Claire McCaskill, Todd Akin was leading in polls definitively by 7 points, by 6 points. He was leading by pretty decent margins and looked favored to win. And then, as you can see here, once he made those comments on rape, the polls started to drift more into Claire McCaskill's column. However, the polls reflected a very slight lead by Claire McCaskill and certainly didn't reflect the giant margin that she won by, as you saw above. So that's something to take into consideration when regarding polling now. However, when looking at the 2016 Missouri Senate race, which was now with Claire McCaskill instead of with Jason Kander, we saw a very close margin between Jason Kander and Roy Blunt, the current the other Republican senator from the state. And this was shocking. This was a very big race for many pundits because look at the margins. Jason Kander lost with 46.4% of the vote, and Roy Blunt won with 49.2% of the vote. This was a very slim margin. This was in 2016. This was in the same year that Trump won the state by like 30 points or in the high 20s or something like that. And this, for the most part, was because of Jason Kander. Jason Kander was a very highly approved of politician. He is the former Secretary of State for Missouri, and he was just highly approved of, mostly because of his youth and just his popularity throughout the state in general is what propelled him to have this margin. Now looking down at polling, which is somewhere down here. Hopefully I don't pass it. As you can see here, Jason Kander was trailing to Roy Blunt in polls, as you can see. Roy Blunt was leading by solid margins. By this one, he was leading by 13%. By this one, he was leading by slightly less with 5. By this one, he was leading with 10. Typically double digits, as you can see here. Roy Blunt was leading by typically double digits, and yet he lost by, what was it? It was not even 3%. It was less than 3%. So this election was a shocker to many people, and it fascinates me in particular on how close it was in a state like Missouri, which is, for the most part, solidly Democrat. And look at the map as well. Jason Kander didn't really win majorities in a lot of states, but however, he was able to make a lot of counties very, very close, as you can see with these pale colors over here. So I digress. I just found this race kind of fascinating, and it does play a role in the race in general, and we're going to look at that now. As you can see in the 2018 race, Claire McCaskill is going against Josh Hawley, and then Jaffe Camphill is the Libertarian also running in this race. So looking at the endorsements, Claire McCaskill was endorsed by Barack Obama, which I think is going to play a big role for her in a state where Barack Obama won or lost by very slim margins. And now looking down at Josh Hawley's endorsements, Josh Hawley received endorsements from both George W. Bush and Donald Trump, which is a definitive advantage in his column. Also from Mike Pence, a number of state officials as well. Going down to polls, which should be down here, and fundraising as well. Claire McCaskill, as you can see here, has a very, very strong advantage in fundraising. Her fundraising is 4 times the amount of Josh Hawley's, and that's going to be a big advantage of her column. Claire McCaskill typically does do particularly well when it comes to fundraising in the state during her election cycles. And as you can see, the polling pretty much reflects the RCP polling I went over before. Okay, now going over to morning consult polling. Claire McCaskill is one of the least approved of senators in the United States. I have this listed in order from the lowest approval politicians. That's how I ordered it. And Claire McCaskill is currently ranking as one of the bottom few with a 44% disapproval rating. However, she does have a 40% approval rating, which is something that's pretty noteworthy. It's a 4% difference between approval and disapproval. However, she's still one of the most disapproved of politicians in the country, which makes sense considering that she's a Democrat from a typically red state. Looking at Trump's approval definitely has dipped in this. Well, actually, has it? Yeah, it has dipped, not by a significant amount. It's been pretty low for a red state, at least. It's been below 10% in net approval consistently throughout the course of the year. That's going to be a big factor for Claire McCaskill. I think this is a benefit for her. This state does have a pretty narrow approval of Trump, considering how solidly it went to Trump during the 2016 election cycle. Now, looking at Claire McCaskill's tab open. I don't know why, but there are a number of other factors to take into consideration regarding this race. In particular, the Governor Greitens investigation. The governor of Missouri, his last name's Greitens. I don't remember his first name right now, but Josh Hawley is the Attorney General under the Greitens administration, and Governor Greitens is under investigation for a number of things, including election finance violations and even sexual harassment. And Josh Hawley's job was to investigate him, and Claire McCaskill fired back heavily on Josh Hawley for his lack of incentive in investigating him, and even trying to implicate Josh Hawley into Governor Greitens' scandals as well. Do I believe that Josh Hawley is heavily involved in the scandals regarding Governor Greitens? I do not. However, he is a part of Governor Greitens' administration, and that is a bit of a black mark on his record, especially during this election cycle. And that is going to be a factor that's going to benefit Claire McCaskill in the long run. Now looking at Judge Kavanaugh, which is one of the biggest factors, especially now as we're nearing November 2018. This is probably the hottest topic regarding the Missouri Senate race. So Claire McCaskill, before the whole sexual harassment accusations against Judge Kavanaugh, has been down the middle. She has not confirmed or denied her support for Brett Kavanaugh, which was a smart move on her part, considering that she's a conservative Democrat from a typically red state. However, ever since the accusations against Brett Kavanaugh, Claire McCaskill has been vocally saying that she will not vote for Brett Kavanaugh. And this is a pretty big development that happened in the past few days, and this is going to be something that will play a big role down the road. Polls haven't reflected it yet. It just happened a few days ago. She just announced on the 19th that she will not vote for Brett Kavanaugh, and this will play a very big role in the election. Whether or not it will benefit her or not benefit her, I really can't say. I think she's claiming it's not because of the sex accusations, but obviously it is. She would not have made this announcement if it wasn't. However, there could be a number of Republicans that would just give her a pass on it, considering that Brett Kavanaugh is facing a scandal. However, there could be a number of Republicans that will not give her a pass on it and could end up disapproving of her as a result of this. This is a very big development, and honestly, I think that I have to wait until for more polls to come out to reflect it. But as you can see, for the most part, this is a very divisive and very critical Senate race overall. And as you can see, polls have been trending rapidly. Claire McCaskill was leading, but now she's no longer leading in polls. I meant to reflect on that earlier. But overall, considering all the factors, considering Brett Kavanaugh, considering Josh Hawley's ties to Governor Greitens, which has been a black stain on his record for the most part throughout this entire election cycle, I would call this election leaning in Claire McCaskill's column. I think that'll come down to very slim margins. I think that this will be Claire McCaskill's hardest re-election. This is going to be the hardest election for Claire McCaskill yet. I think she will emerge victorious, though, and this is also a result of Donald Trump's low approval in the state. Josh Hawley has made a point of having strong support for Trump, which makes sense considering that the state does have a pretty positive approval of Trump, but it's not as positive as typically safe or red states like Wyoming or southern states. It is below 10% in terms of net approval. So I think it's going to be a factor. I think that Claire McCaskill's vote on Judge Kavanaugh will be a factor. And with all of them taken into consideration, again, I would call it leaning blue. Alright, so if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. It's the only way for small channels like mine to grow. I plan to do another Texas Senate prediction. A lot has changed there since I made my last Senate prediction. If you guys want to see that, please let me know down below. I'd like to do more analyses in the future, especially as we're getting closer to the November midterms. And I'm also working on doing a comprehensive analysis of an analysis and prediction of the House of Representatives, which if you guys remember, I did a House of Representatives prediction a few months ago on my channel. It wasn't comprehensive, it was just me just briefly going over everything. However, this one, I'm analyzing every single competitive race, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Yeah, so if you guys enjoyed the video, as I said before, leave a like, share, subscribe, and I hope you guys have a good day. See ya.